Hello and welcome to Lunchtime Politics, reaching you live from our global headquarters here in the nation's commercial nerve center, Lagos. I'm Jeffrey Uzon. Here's what's coming up on the program right now. Negotiation between the federal government and organized labor over minimum wage ends in a deadlock. Labor accuses government of being unserious on the welfare of workers. Catholic Bishop of Sokoto Diocese, Bishop Matthew Kuka, says it may be too early to assess the performance of President Bola Tinubu, but advises government to communicate possible timeline for people to see results. And 5 more commissioners believed to be loyal to the FCT minister Nyesom Wike resigned from the River State Executive Council, bringing to 8 the number of commissioners who have left the Fubara administration. We begin the tracking of the polity with a submission by the Bishop of Sokoto Diocese, Archbishop Matthew Kuka, who is of the view that 1 year is not enough to pass judgment on the president's administration. He, however, says the government needs to communicate to Nigerians when it will fix the current socioeconomic challenges facing the country. Bishop Kuka gave his position in an interview with State House correspondents shortly after meeting with President Bola Tinubu at the presidential villa in Abuja to discuss an upcoming event organized by the Kuka Center.
I'm sure many people will tell you that 1 year is not enough to make a judgment. However, from where we all stand, we know that we are all in a very difficult situation. Nigerians are in various levels of pain, and there are pains that are unintended. But that there is also certain policy decisions that hopefully with time can be amended in order to serve the welfare of ordinary people. But I believe that the essence of government is to guarantee the welfare and security of ordinary citizens. I believe that the times that we're in now are very, very difficult times, and nobody should be under any illusion. But there are also times for renewal. We just need to commit ourselves to the fact that building a good society takes a lot of time. It's not something that is done in one lifetime. And for me, the most important thing is for us to continue on the building blocks of the things that we think are being done well. My argument has always been that the government needs to very quickly improve the quality of communication so that Nigerians can at least get a sense of how long is it going to be before food is ready.
Let's also tell you that the chairman of the Independent National Electoral Commission, INEC, is meeting with members of the Interagency Consultative Committee on Election Security ahead of the forthcoming Edo and Ondo elections. The meeting is part of the quarterly series of meetings for better election management ahead of the off-cycle polls in September and November. Earlier, INEC had met differently with leadership of political parties, civil society organizations, and media executives to ensure all stakeholders are involved in the exercise. Let's also tell you that a gale of resignation has again hit the River State government as 5 more commissioners loyal to the FCT minister Nyesom Wike have quit Governor Siminalayi Fubara's cabinet. Those who resigned today, or yesterday I should say, are Commissioners for Education, Chinedu Mom, Housing, Gift Wallu, Transport, Jacobson Mbina, and Social Welfare and Rehabilitation, Inima Aguma, and Environment, Mr. Austin Ben Chioma. The former commissioner cited toxic working environment, lack of trust and room for progressional development as reasons for their resignations. The commissioners were among those who resigned from the governor's cabinet in December 2023 in the wake of the political feud, but were readmitted into Governor Fubara's cabinet following the president's intervention. And there's more story now. A candidate of the Social Democratic Party in last year's governorship election in River State, Mr. Magnus Abe, has pledged to support or work with the FCT minister Nyesom Wike and the River State APC caretaker chairman, Mr. Tony Okocha. Senator Abe, who represented Rivers Southeast in the upper chamber at the National Assembly, said this in Port Harcourt during a stakeholders meeting with members of his support group and loyalists. According to Senator Abe, he chose to reconcile with Mr. Wike because he's dedicated to the success of President Tinubu's government noting that his decision does not mean he's at loggerheads with Governor Fubara.
It is not true that Wike came and pushed me aside. No, that is not true. We had a disagreement, but I will not give the details of that disagreement for the governor of Rivers State. He is the governor. And we are not members of their party. And we are not therefore part of their problem. We are members of the APC. But the 27 House of Assembly members are members of the APC. And so they are our own. We must defend them. We cannot say because they decamped from PDP, they are a different APC from our own. That is not how party politics works. I decamped to APC from PDP on national television. On national television, 11 of us, including Senator Aki, we defected to APC on national yes, we defected to APC on national television. We didn't lose our seat, so we cannot come here today and begin to support people saying that people should lose their seats because they decamped to our party. We will not do that.
Oh, that's the position of Senator Magnus Abe, which a lot of other politicians as well as legal practitioners will subject it to debate, but that's his position. Let's move on now to the issue of labor, where the organized labor has pulled out of the ongoing negotiation aimed at producing a new national minimum wage for the country. The Nigeria Labour Congress and Trade Union Congress, which had proposed a 615,000 naira minimum wage, rejected the 48,000 naira proposal made by the federal government. The NLC president, Mr. Joe Ajero, who briefed journalists on the union's decision to pull out of the talks, accused the federal government of not taking the issue seriously. He warned that the government has till the end of the month to arrive at a decision, after which Labour will take further action on the matter.
The government's proposal of a paltry 48,000 naira as the minimum wage does not only insult the sensibilities of Nigerian workers, but also falls significantly short of meeting our needs and aspirations. In contrast, organized private sector proposed an initial offer of 54,000, though it is worth noting that even the least paid workers in the private sectors receive 78,000 naira. As clearly stated by the organized private sector, highlighting the stark disparity between the proposed minimum wage and prevailing standards, further demonstrating the unwillingness of the employers and government to faithfully negotiate a fair national minimum wage for workers in Nigeria. So I think maybe they should go back to drawing board. And of course, between now and the end of the month is enough time.
We call upon the government to reconsider its position and come to negotiation table with clear hands that reflects the true value of the contributions made by Nigerian workers to the nation's development and the objectives of socioeconomic realities that confront not just Nigerian workers, but Nigerians as a whole. Together in this reasonable dialogue, we can work to give Nigerian workers a 615,000 minimum wage, as proposed by the NLC and TUC on the basis of evidence and data. This will be in keeping with the pledge of President Bola Ahmed Tinubu to ensure that a living wage is paid for Nigerian workers.
All right, that's the crux of the conversation for today, the issue of the Labour and the federal government as to where this eventually leads all of us. So between minimum wage or living wage is the big argument. So those are the slides. I'm going to be taking them one after the other. So I'm going to be joined by a guest, but let me do a bit of an explainer from what the NLC President, Mr. Joa Gerard, said, if my producer can hold that very first slide for me. Yes, this one. So that's a little breakdown of how Labour came to 615,000. So 615,000 is what Labour is proposing. They are assuming that an average family will be made up of 6 people, 4 children, and man and wife. And each member of the family, by global standard, is not supposed to survive below $2 per person. And if you put that per family, that's about $12 per family. And if you multiply that, apologies for the too much mathematics, but just a breakdown. So if you multiply that $12 for 30 days, you come to about $360 per month. So you're left with the option of what is the exchange rate for this today, tomorrow, or whenever. So they left that to Nigerians to calculate. If we go to the next slide, which is what they call the cost of living index. So a bit of a breakdown of what they expect this money to be used for. Assuming they call it one bedroom, room and parlor, 40,000 naira for housing, 50,000 naira for education, feeding, 270,000 naira. And this is how they calculated it. This is how Labour calculated it. Per meal, 500 naira. And then 3 square meal or per meal a day, 1,500. So you multiply that by the number of people in a family, which is 6, they came to 270,000. If we go to the next slide, further cost of living index, yes, this one, the estimated transportation, depending on where you live, 90,000, gas or kerosene, 32,000, electricity, 20, basic Medicare, no surgeries, just basic Medicare, 50,000, and clothing about 20,000. And tentatively, if you look at their own breakdown, 572,000 to 615,000, giving room for inflation and all of that. So that is how Labour came to the table. This is how Labour approached the negotiation table. Now, the anger of Labour is the fact that we have come to you. These are the assumptions we made to say, pay us 615. You can't just dump 48,000 on us without an explanation. So we're joined on the program by former Nigeria Labour Congress chairman in Rivers State and former governorship aspirant in the 2023 governorship election in Rivers State. She joins us via Zoom, Mrs. Beatrice Itubo. Thank you so much, madam, for joining us on the program.
Thank you.
So I just did a quick explainer, and the view of the NLC president on this is the fact that federal government is not serious. Is that what you share as a view?
Of course, I share that wholly. Because if they are serious, they should come out with data and analysis.
Okay, maybe you want to explain that further.
Yes, of course. And you see, NLC did a thorough job. You can see how they came out with that figure. They analyzed it commodity by commodity. And at the end of the day, they were very realistic. Who feeds with 500 naira in these days per person, per meal? When you go to most of the fast foods, one plate of food will cost about 3,000. But even if you are cooking at home, just go to the market and see the deflationary trend. Something you bought today for 5 naira, the next day as you're going, it is 200 naira. That's exactly where we are. And somebody is coming to say he wants to pay Nigerian workers 48,000. That is very ridiculous. And just dumping it, not even trying to analyze, because there's nothing for them to analyze. That's exactly the truth. There's nothing for them to analyze. That's why they just don't want to talk about it. They just want to, because they are treating workers as if we are begging. But no, they don't know that it's our right. A workman is worthy of his wages.
So, on the other hand, it's a tripartite committee, Labour, organized Labour now, federal government, and of course, I think the private sector. They have proposed 57,000 naira. What's your reaction to that number from the private sector?
Well, even now, the private sector is not paying anybody 58,000 for minimum wage, because we work in those sectors and we have our members who are also there. So you can see that they only try to play around because government is trying to play with the workers. It's just a mind's game, but it will not go anywhere. They should go back to the drawing board and come out with a realistic figure. And of course, Labour was very, very realistic when it says 612,000. To me, that is the minimum. Otherwise, they should pay workers up to 1 million naira. Because if you look at the dollar rate now, are you saying that in Nigeria, a whole family should not be able to get up to $2 a day? So this is very, very ridiculous.
So at the end of the day, let's break it down. We saw the breakdown on Labour, but Labour approaching this table of negotiation. Is Labour looking at the pulse of the federal government as we speak? From our understanding, even our presidential fleet is having issues. The government is having challenges with funding. We may have to borrow eventually because our budget has always been in deficit. we're not accruing as much revenue as possible. Although subsidy has been removed, but there's still money needed to be able to fund all of this. So where does Labour intend that government should look for this money to pay them?
All the excess money gotten from subsidy removal and all other taxes that are ongoing. I was told the other day when I was going through one of the dailies that they intend to even increase taxes further. So where are all this money going? So the monies they're also getting from corrupt politicians, where are they going? So you can see that it's a government that doesn't have the political will to treat the workers fine. It's not as if there's no money. Labour took everything into consideration before arriving at that figure. And so we feel that they can be able to pay if they are willing to pay. It's just a matter of political will.
Realistically, because I think I did listen. I had a conversation with Mr. Joe Ajero last week Friday, which is where he gave that breakdown that I reeled out, which will be showing on the screen intermittently. But I also listened to Mr. Comrade, as you guys call it, Osifo, when he was the TUC president, when he was talking about this is what we are bringing to the table. Let government also bring a proposal. Of course, government has brought this one that is considered ludicrous in the eyes of Labour. But what will, in your view, be like the minimum that they can come to if they can afford a 615,000 naira realistically for them?
I believe that if there is a political way, government can afford. There are so many other places where expenditure should be cut down. Have they also cut down their own bogus living? You can find out that up till now there is still corruption in the country. Let them block all those holes. None of those loopholes are blocked properly. I believe there will be excess money in the fund for them to pay workers rightly and also embark on other developmental strides. So I don't think that workers' wages has been a problem in this country. The problem is the politicians who are bent on looting our general resources to themselves alone. That's the problem we have.
So at the end of the day, let me also ask you, you chaired a state chapter of the NLC, and whatever has been brought on the table is just like some kind of an aggregate at the national level that will guide the state. As we speak, even the 30,000 that has been the last minimum wage we have, some states are struggling literally because a couple of these states technically are not viable. I always say that without fact, they'll go belly up. And some of the leaders are not showing creativity by analyst expectation to be able to ramp up, revenue as much as possible. So if a state, for instance, is struggling with 30,000, isn't 615,000 naira a tall order?
Have you wondered why each time they leave governance, they are always trailed by EFCC? And then they begin to dole how many $1 billion they have kept in foreign accounts, how much they have kept at home and all that. They are not sincere. Most of these governors are not sincere. If they are really sincere, I'm telling you, there is no state government that cannot confidently pay workers a minimum of 500,000 a month. There is none. But all they want to do is to continue to loot the public treasury and then go back. Before they leave office, they will be stupendously rich. And of course, this primitive accumulation of wealth is what is still getting into their head. And that's why each time they leave office, you see EFCC trailing them. Apart from P2B and maybe very few other governors, how many full abuses when they left office that EFCC didn't trail them? It's because of these corruptions. And if they can be able to be sincere to themselves, they will know that what Labour is asking is implementable, is achievable. Of course, it's not even on the minimum side.
So, Ms. Tubo, because I have the numbers sometimes on the script. Just looking at some states, I can tell you, for instance, a state like Benue. So my question will be, will there be like a uniform amount for minimum wage, or each state should be able to pay what they can pay based on the agreement? This is my point. So a state like Benue, for instance.
Minimum wage. When they say minimum wage, it simply means the baseline, which no employer should go below.
No, Mr. Tubo, the reason I'm asking that question. I'm
coming.
Okay, go ahead.
Like when I was the one who presented, when we were looking for minimum wage, the previous one before this time, I was the one who presented for the South here in Port Harcourt. And I said that in the South states are even supposed to get higher. Minimum simply means the baseline with which no employer should go below. And so every state can be able to pay the minimum, while other states, like what they are even analyzing that I saw on the analysis table, find out that which one-bedroom flat in Port Harcourt costs 40,000 naira. There is none. At least there are some one-bedroom flat in Port Harcourt that is up to 200,000 naira. And so when we begin to look at that and aggregate that, then you will finally see that actually the workers are really trying. Because sometimes I begin to wonder how workers even cope. Transportation alone, from where I stay to the office, cost me 2,000 something per day. So going and coming, I'm spending about 5,000 naira. I've not thought of lunch. So these days we don't even eat again. When you eat in the morning, when you come back in the evening, you eat again because you cannot afford the luxury of having lunch. Is that the kind of workers we want? And then we want them to put in their best. So they should go back to the round table and see how they can discuss and come out sincerely with the political will to implement so that they can be able to give workers the right what the workers rightfully deserve. Because this time around we need a living wage, not just the minimum, but a wage that can take someone home. One bag of rice now is how much? Are you not saying the worker will even save money for a month before he can be able to buy one bag of rice if he decides to buy one? How much is even a rubber of beans? So when you look at all these things, actually, like I'm saying, if I was to be the one there, I would have even asked for 1 million naira for the workers as minimum wage. But then as realistic, as labor, they are asking for 615, so they should graciously give it to the workers.
All right, because the reason I said you should speak realistically to the numbers, for instance, I was giving an example of Benue State, which I know that as at the 2020 reports from budget that we saw, it was clear that most of their revenue was coming from FAC as well as AIDS. IGR was literally abysmal, and we can go from state to state to state of how terribly they are performing in terms of internally generated.
They should think out of the box. They should think outside the box and see how they can begin to generate revenues to their states. Every state in Nigeria is capable of generating revenues. It's just that they have become lazy because they are getting money from the federal allocation. They should be able to go out of that and begin to do that. But even within the one they are getting from the federal allocation, they can be able to pay the salaries they desire to pay.
All right. Mrs. Beatrice Utubo is a former chairman of the Nigeria Labour Congress in Rivers State, as well as a governorship aspirant in the governorship election. Governorship candidate, my apologies, please. She was a governorship candidate of the Labour Party in the 2023 governorship election in Rivers State. Madam, thank you so much for coming on the program.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
Absolutely. We'll go on a quick break. When we come back, we'll bring you more stories on Lunchtime Politics. Join us again. Welcome back. Let's head now to the National Assembly, where the Senate is asking the president to kickstart advocacy for full autonomy of the local government in the country. The upper chamber wants President Bola Tinubu to convene a national dialogue involving governors, state legislators, local government officials, civil society organizations, and community leaders to discuss the roadmap towards achieving full local government autonomy.
Lawmakers in the upper chamber converged again on the second day of plenary with major concerns in the administration of local government on the front burner. In a motion sponsored by Senator Ismail Kabul on the crucial need for President Bola Tinubu to resuscitate advocacy for local government autonomy, the senators began the arguments in earnest.
That over 17 local states in this country are operating the caretaker committee. We should not spare any effort in bringing it to the court of public opinion, the abuse of the local governments by the state governments that see the local governments as cash cows that they can use at the expense of the development of our communities.
A state like Anambra State has not conducted local government election in the last 18 years. And when you see the youth unemployment, decadency...
18 years?
18 years, sir. In the last 18 years, the fundamental cause is non-implementation of that 1999 framework.
I like that prayer too, where there will be a true dialogue led by Mr. President, where we tell ourselves the truth, we lead Nigerians who have been given the mandate, and we must be truthful to ourselves.
There are chains of action to be taken. It's not only for us to vote for the autonomy of local governments. We must vote for a body different from a body that be controlled by state government to conduct local government elections. Otherwise, forget it.
By the same token, the lawmakers adopted a resolution asking the Inspector General of Police and the Chief of Army Staff to urgently curb the incessant killings and maiming of innocent indigents of Nimbo Adani by suspected herdsmen in Enugu State.
Security, you don't have us and them. Security is everybody's responsibility, and we must all work together to ensure that we secure our places.
The Senate has approved the president's loan request of $500 million for the Bureau of Public Enterprises for the metering of citizens to improve financial and technical performance of electricity distribution companies.
Now, a bill for an act to amend the National Hajj Commission 2006 to involve states and the Federal Capital Territory in the selection of airline agencies for Hajj operations, principally to promote efficiency and accountability, has now scaled second reading. From the National Assembly, Gloria Umezuke, Channels Television News.
Moving on now, in order to win the fight against insurgency, Nigeria must domesticate its military hardware. The Chief of Defense Staff, General Christopher Musa, said this during an operational visit to EPAL, an indigenous military hardware manufacturing site. He expressed satisfaction with the level of innovation and technological improvisation that abound in the country and promised to keep the defense industry sustained with improved patronage.
Nigeria as a country, I'm proud that we have something like this. All we need is to cooperate together with them, and for us to be able to make sure that we get our products from them. That's the only way we can encourage them to do more. They have the capacity to do so much. Electric metering, you can see military hardware from helmets to APCs to ballistic protection. They are doing everything. And so I'm really very proud. I'm very happy to be here. I've seen it in person, and I'm happy, and I can assure them that the armed forces of Nigeria will patronize them fully because we know this is the only way we can encourage other ones to come and join up. We must produce what we need. The fight against insurgency has shown us fighting over 15 years. Why it is this prolonged is because we couldn't get the weapons we needed. Now, if we start doing this, we can end this as quickly as possible. So nobody will hold us to ransom. And I think this is something that, just like what the president has improved, that he wants us to domesticate what we are, our military hardware. This is a way forward.
And that's it on the program. Thank you so much for your time and, of course, your usual company. I'm Jeffrey Ozon. You've been served on Lunchtime Politics.